You mentioned briefly Brown's ability to run, but also pretty good debut throwing the ball. Just in general, what did you see? What were your impressions? His first start and like it went about as well as it could have.
Yeah, I think he's a good quarterback. It's a really impressive quarterback. He's a young guy. Had good command of the system and what they were trying to accomplish. So definitely creates some challenges.
Front left, James.
Much of the commentary world has decided and struck you as a genius, Stan, for the 12-man penalty and declared that it was intentional. Was it indeed intentional to induce the throw one-on-one against Jabbar in that spot?
It wasn't one-on-one. We actually had a safety on top. So there was so it's called dog. It's when you play, but he wasn't in an extremely tight coverage, but he was in dog coverage where he had safety on top of him. And there was a timeout before that. We spent an inordinate amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we had worked on. So you could see the result.
On the right, Zach.
Talk about victory hangover sometimes, but after a big game like this, is it almost sometimes easier to jump right back into the work because you're excited to go, especially on a short week?
Say it again.
We talk about victory hangover sometimes, hangover from victory. Is it sometimes easier, though, to jump back into the work on a short week just because you're excited to get back in?
Yeah, I mean, football's fun. Football's exciting, so I don't think it's hard for us to get back and get to work. But you do have to squeeze a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, right? And that's the challenge of making sure you're still really consistent and thorough with what matters, not putting too much on your players in a short window. But it's not hard to get excited about going to play football.
Purdue probably didn't have their best game against Oregon State, but when a team faces an opponent that you've already faced, how much do you read into that film, and what are you taking away from that? Or do you more so just focus on the last game to see what's most similar about that?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is evaluating where they're at now. And what I see right now is a team that's grown and gotten better and better. I know they've given up a few more points this past week than they had so far this season, but they're continuing to fight. You see a team that's playing really hard and doing some really good things.
Right, Brett.
Coach, how important was it to have the game that Evan Stewart had last weekend? And did you see the progress of him adjusting week by week in this team and moving forward for the rest of this year with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it before after the game that sometimes you don't know when your number's going to be called. Not every play is designed to go to just one person, but I think Evan did a great job of taking advantage of the opportunities when the ball did get put in his direction, and he had opportunities to go make plays on the ball. And there's been some other moments this year where he probably could have had those opportunities, and maybe the ball just didn't go his way. So he took advantage of those opportunities, and I certainly expect him to do that in the future.
I don't know if we've asked you much about Jaden Moore, but that's somebody who didn't play last year and is now finding some role in this defense, maybe more with if Jordan's out for an extended period. What has he shown to earn that role, and what does he bring to your defense?
Yeah, in practice, Jaden's always been one of the hardest guys for us to block. He does a really good job in pass rush situations for us, and has earned that opportunity with the way that he's executed at practice. So seeing that and having guys being down and a couple guys in certain roles, I think that grew his role, and it's somebody that can take advantage of that.
Front left, James.
What explanation, if any, did you get for the ineligible man downfield call during the game, and what have you gotten since? Because between the misannouncement that it was Tez when he wasn't on the field, and it certainly looked like a not covered up Kenyon, it seemed very confusing.
Yeah, we sent it in, and they told us they got it wrong. So, in the game, they told us they got it right.
Back left, Aaron.
I know UCLA was your first technical Big Ten road trip, but Purdue will be the first time that you're facing an opponent that wasn't in your same conference last year. And then some more Big Ten opponents down the stretch that you'll get the chance to go on the road and play this year. Have you sensed any extra excitement from the team at all about, finally going to get to play some of these teams and at places that some of them might not have played before?
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly a venue I haven't been to before. I'm sure our players might feel the same way, but for us, it's always about focusing on the week that we're in. So this is an exciting one for us. Get an opportunity again to play on a Friday night in a primetime window at a place that we haven't been.
All right, Zach.
We saw Kyler on a boot and on a scooter. Do you anticipate him to come back this year?
Yeah, I don't know the timeline right now on Kyler. It might be hard to see him back this year, but I won't put limitations on him and his ability to get back.
Front left, James.
From Purdue's defense in particular, just what stands out about 31 and 4 for what they bring in terms of disruption?
Yeah, I mean, obviously 31's a guy that can play sideline to sideline. They play their safety a little deeper than some teams traditionally. It allows him to really play almost like a flat foot read player back there that can see the ball and react to the ball. And he's really talented player. He does a great job of doing that and finding himself, around the ball consistently. And, forward obviously does a great job inside at backer, and then at times even on the edge, they move him around quite a bit to create matchups. So they do a good job. It's hard to know exactly what they're in. They're probably one of the better defenses is at disguising their coverage and what that looks like. So definitely presents some challenges there.
Coach, are there any thoughts about making a change at the kicker position? I know Atticus has had some struggles this season, missed a couple field goals. What's kind of the situation when it comes to the main kicker when it comes to special teams?
Yeah, we chart every single day in competitive situations at our practices. We get a lot of reps at it. Atticus has proven to do a good job in situations given the opportunity, and not always put in the easiest situations to be able to go execute. But the hold wasn't exactly right for Atticus in that situation either. So you always have to evaluate the whole picture and not just a small subset or seeing it from the sideline view.
Second row left, Eric. What else stands out about their offense? You touched on a little bit earlier. I know they use their tight end more than some teams. Or are there things there that are unique?
Yeah, they have a really good tight end. He's a really, really talented player. He's targeted as much as any tight end in the nation. They do a great job moving him around and creating some challenging matchups there, and a lot of run-pass conflict where there's a run one direction with an RPO or a potential pop pass another direction. So I think that's a good challenge from them.
Front left, James.
What did you see from Nico this past week, particularly given the magnitude of the test, and compare that to what you saw from him last year, even going back to the conference title game against an elite receiving corps, and how much improvement and development has there been for a senior in that role?
Yeah, I think Nico's grown a ton, and I think he went out there and competed his tail off on Saturday with one of the biggest challenges that he's been able to face. And there's moments there that he won, and there's moments that he didn't win. But what you see is a guy that's grown and gotten better and better. That we certainly have a level of confidence in, as well as a lot of those other guys in the secondary that are doing a good job.
Last question, James.
To go back to touch on the special teams for a moment, Dan, why even mess with the battery on place kicking at all? Like, why have Luke hold when Ross has usually done it, at least early in games before it starts getting uncompetitive or something? Why even make
actually, Luke's held all year for us this year. He's held all year in practice, so that's not something that's new or different. He's done it so far in the season for us. Each kicker usually gets comfortable with a certain guy at holder, and they get a lot of reps in practice at it. But we have multiple guys that can do it, and that's why you do.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Well, let me tell you guys some things that you already know. We're at the halfway point of our season, and as I tell you, we evaluate every part of it, whether it's coaching, whether it's staff, whether it's philosophy, whether it's process. We've had some challenging moments in the first half of the season. And as a result, I've made some tough decisions and significant moves internally. And as you guys know, when I make moves internally, I don't like to talk about them. There are things that are in-house that will, I think I've earned the right to be able to make these decisions and changes at all the different levels. We see it when a guy goes from second team to first team, or a guy goes from a first team to a second team role. And that's the great thing about being here at Maryland and having endured and been through building and growing the program. When I think about these decisions that I've had to make the last couple of weeks, when you look at the program from a holistic standpoint, the first thing I talk about and think about is grit. And that's kind of being consistent and having a commitment to stay the course until these changes start to show the type of results that we need them to show. That's hard for all of us, including me. As I told y'all, I've been doing the therapy piece. I'm a positive guy. I got to keep this because I've been around here a long time, 16 seasons. I know how it goes. That's called wisdom. And wisdom is somewhere between positive experiences and negative experiences, finding that middle ground for how you make decisions. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's hard for all of us, our fans, our former players, our supporters, my boss, my staff, my wife. Shoot, I think my dogs are even a little upset. They didn't come running down this week. But what's important, it's important because that's how you get to the outcomes we want, the big outcomes. And I'm here to tell you, I've been here 16 seasons. I've been a part of these type of growth spurts that we've seen around here. I was here for Ralph Friesen's first 3 years. I saw Ron Vanderlinden and what he was able to do. I came back for Randy Edsel, and getting the Stephon Diggs and getting the program back. And so I think I have the wisdom from the good experiences and the bad experiences that I've faced here in different capacities and different roles that we'll get to the outcomes we want. Second thing I think about is the investment. You know, when you look at how we've built our program, we always have given our younger, less experienced players the opportunity to see significant snaps early in their careers. That's how you grow and build a program. You don't get better on the bench. And that's how we're able to develop Tarheeb Steele. That's how we're able to develop the Deontay Banks. That's how we're able to develop the DJ Glazes of the world that have now, you see, across the board having great success at the next level. And it's critical that we keep developing the future of our program. I'm all about the now, and again, nobody wants to win championships more than the people in that building, Jones Hill House and our staff and the supporters, and we'll keep doing that. That's the State of the Union. That's your article. Here's what we got happening this weekend. It's Johnny Holiday's birthday. Happy birthday to Johnny Holiday. Good to see you, big man. We got homecoming this Saturday. Now, is your birthday tied into homecoming every year? Because you've seen 75 homecomings, huh? No, let me stop playing. What it means with homecoming is a lot of former players are coming back here and alumnus are coming home. And it's always a great time. As we have told, Terpsville is wherever it feels like family and whenever it feels like home. And so to be able to bring these people back to Terpsville is important to me because I'm one of those guys. You know, every time I get off the bus to get to do the Terp Walk, I'm reminded of what my past looked like here because I see friends from the times of selling tickets at Old Bird Stadium, as it was called back then. This support means a great deal to us. It means a great deal to me. We're excited for an opportunity to play a blue blood program in USC that's coming across the country. A really talented team has played some really close, tough games, and as we found with college football, anything can happen on any weekend. It'll be our first time meeting against them, and I'm looking forward to it, and I know our players are here in the Shell. Game captains this week, Ruben Hippolyte, Rex Fleming, and Ty Felton will serve as our game captains for our homecoming game. And with that, I'll open up to any and all questions.
Mike, USC, plenty of talent, especially offensively. Miller Moss, their quarterback. What jumps off the tape at you?
The running back, Miller Moss. You know, Miller, they put a lot on him. If you watch the tape of him at the line of scrimmage, making a lot of decisions, and they're one of those teams that doesn't. They haven't played with pace, though we know they have the ability to, and I think a lot of that is the utilization of the coach-to-player comm system where, you know, they got till the 15-second mark to see where you're lined up, and Miller is doing a lot of it at the line of scrimmage, which means that he's a veteran guy. The running game is critical. The running back is a really good player. They have, when you look at their receivers, I think they're a lot like us. They've got good players in a lot of different areas. I almost said, talking to Brian Williams, a lot of DeShaun Jones type receivers all over the place and really athletic. On the defensive side of the ball, they play a lot of man coverage. They've got great secondary, really good scheme. You know, he's out of the Baltimore Raven defensive family. D'Anton Lynn spent time there with the Ravens. He's now the D coordinator there and very familiar with that system and how they run it, from whether it's the Ravens to Michigan. So similar families that they play to the strengths of what they have, which allows them to play some split field coverage and man coverage, and really talented team, but a team that I feel like we match up. You know, when you look at us, we match up very well.
Offensively, what do you feel the keys are for you guys in getting your groove back to where you were?
It's the red zone. You know, before last game, we were really big, little. It was either a big play, a 75-yard run, or a 60-yard touchdown throw, or we'd have 2 or 3 3-and-outs, which, you know, when I keep talking about the lack of complementary offense, defense, and special teams, it's all of us kind of doing our part in sync. And so for us on offense, it's the red zone because we were able to get drives and sustain some drives, which we hadn't done. But then we buckle down in the red area where, to me, typically the run game is what you like to hang your hat on. And, you know, our Achilles heel has been our inability to run it when we want to or need to, as well as to minimize the big plays that we've seen affect the momentum of games.
Hey, Mike, obviously with the understanding that the goal every week is to go 1-0 each week. When you look at the big picture, if you do, how much has that been part of the discussion, knowing that it's halfway through the season, time is maybe running out to get to the where you want to go to get to the bowl eligibility, all those kind of things, with the schedule being really tough down the road.
Yeah, we haven't looked at it that way. I mean, I know at the end of one of my press conferences, I was talking about going out to L.A. because the one thing people have to do, we have to work ahead for travel, and they ask me questions, and now I'm thinking, and it goes to show you that I'm kind of one-track minded, and I can't. You know, the transactionalness of how the sports are being valued and viewed, I came here big picture thinking, you know, open my big mouth. Everybody's, oh, shut up, Locks, about competing for championships. I promise you, we've got a really good football team. And through the wisdom that I've gained from the great experiences and negative experiences, whether it's here at Maryland, being a part of winning at a place like Bama and understanding that, there's nobody in that building that's panicked. And I promise you, this isn't not acting. This is what makes us us. The authenticity of being able to say, here are the issues. These are the decisions that have to be made. Make the decisions, and then have the grit to allow them to take shape. And that's what we're doing.
And when you look at the turnovers from last week,
The
turnovers from last week, just how much has that been addressed, or how is it addressed?
I mean, that's where, again, when you talk about having standards of not watching the scoreboard, you know, it's a one-score game against a really good team at 17-10 with 13-42 in the fourth quarter. When you start watching the scoreboard, when you play inexperienced players, they start pressing. You know, we had an atrocious interception. Preston Howard came off, one of our better younger players, to put two on the ground and just, in his mind, Coach, I'm trying to make a play. And you know what? The wisdom of that for me is I got to let him make a play. I've seen the ball thrown over a few of our young DBs' heads over the last 6 years, and they end up first-round draft picks or third-round picks playing at the next level. And that's a process. You know, it's like that oak tree. It's the sapling. It's a little branch, little thing, and then some of them make it to become big oaks, and some of them don't weather the storm. Well, this team, Coach Locke's coach team, will weather the storms here.
And the last one is any update on Dante's status?
He's practicing, which is a good thing for us, but it still be a game time decision for us because it's just how he feels.
Mike, just curious on the changes, the decisions that you made. Will we see them in lineup and personnel, or is it game management, responsibilities, coaching?
Yeah, it's all of them. You know, we've seen some of the changes in how we play our players, some of the players you see. We have to continue as we grow and build this thing. We have to always evaluate where we are now. You know, I have a saying that my team will say to you that if the map and the terrain don't match, you go with the terrain because that's where you are. The map was the plan. The map is where we want to get to, but here's where we are, and our team understands that. And so the decisions we make staff-wise, process-wise, who plays-wise, you know, what we eat. I mean, every part of it gets evaluated to see, you know, continue to move things around to get us to the ultimate goal, which is to be able to compete in the Big Ten for championships.
Mike, good to see you.
Oh man, here comes this dude and his questions. I feel ambushed right now. Can you let me know you're coming next time?
Maybe, you know, one of the big internal changes you're talking about is you took over play calling duties on Friday. First off, will that continue moving forward?
I've always been involved in this offense. You know, one of the things I learned being with Coach Saban was seeing him sit in the defense every single day. And then he'd come over and meet with the offensive coordinator and staff and say, hey, what are we doing on this side? It's like I always say, it's like an executive producer. I've always been involved with it. I did take over and became the voice in Billy's ear, you know, as I feel that I need to insert myself and work collaboratively. Josh is still our offensive coordinator. He is still very involved. I took over this last Friday in an effort to create the processes that allow us to maybe sustain a few drives here or there, but it's collaborative. Josh is the offensive coordinator. I'll continue to be the voice to Billy, and we continue to game plan the way we have, which is, you know, guys within the program, our run pods, our game plan pods, and it's been more collaborative.
So you guys scored a season low 10 points. You guys scored a season low 10 points against a defense that was previously allowing more than double that. What gives you the confidence or the faith that that change is what's needed for the offense right now, the change that's needed moving forward?
You know, that's what the grit comment's about. There's no guarantees in any decisions and changes you make. You just got to have the belief from wisdom that it will. And you know, one of the areas I just think I described to you was on offense, we've had explosive plays and moments. But if you want to play complementary football, you can't have your defense playing 80 plays. Our defense played 55 plays last game. That means we had drives and sustained drives. Now, what we've got to do is figure out how to score points in the red area. If you were to say evaluation, the last 4 games, we haven't been really sharp in the red zone. And typically, red zone offense starts with being able to run the football. And that's been a problem which we will continue to address with how we do things, the philosophy behind how we need to run the ball. And that's, to me, how the wisdom of being through there and making these type of decisions here at Maryland over the years and seeing these type of decisions made, a lot of faith that they'll take shape the way we need them to keep us moving in the right direction.
Hey, Coach.
What's up, Sam?
Your guys' transfers.
You're like a little Taylor. Like, I always talk about comps. You know, when you talk about recruiting comps, this guy's like him. Like, I told Dustin, I said, Dustin, he kind of reminds me of Taylor. And then Taylor shows up
I don't know.
Here comes a good young question.
I don't know how I feel about that, though, you know.
Because you guys blushing at it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in terms of your guys' transfer class, you guys brought in a lot on the offensive line, Husky in the secondary, and those have been the 2 units that have struggled the most, you've said. Why do you think that the transfers haven't, you know, acclimated themselves this year? Like, you know, you guys have brought in Shepard last year, played well, and this year it really hasn't clicked, it feels like.
Come on, man. You know that answer. You know, you bring in Jaquan Shepard, and he paired with Tarheeb Steele that's played 3 or 4 years. Here, we've had to make changes where we put, I think, 4 O-linemen, 4 DBs at the next level. Guys like Gottlieb Ayeje's on the practice squad for the Raiders, I guess they're called. You know, when you bring in 5, if you look at the Breakfast Club up front, you know, Andre Roy is going to have a degree before he has 12 starts. You know, he's going to graduate next June, and this is his first time on the field playing continuous. Ike Bunyan was a defensive lineman that we moved over to play left guard because it gave us a chance to develop some of the younger players and not throw them in the deep end of the pool. Josh Kaltenberger comes over from Purdue, right guard. We have a guy that didn't play at Georgia but was really talented enough to get recruited there that we were able to bring in ball. We play money ball and bring Alan Haran up from Shorter, very much similar to what we did with Corey Bullock, who happens to be on the practice squad for the Ravens. Those things you don't grow up wise. You have to go through the experiences together. That's what we're doing. I really like it. If you think of the future of that, and then you think of the guys behind them, the Hershey's, the Therese Davis, who as a true freshman was our player of the game on offense last week. He came in and played his tail off as a true freshman competing in the Big Ten. Just think of that. So you can't compare apples to oranges when you bring in one guy and maybe insert or 2, but we've got 5 new guys up front. We've got two new starters, all 4 of the 2 deep guys are new at the corner position. That's where that little sapling, they're weathering some storms, very much like a Tarheeb Steele, a Deontay Banks, and some of these younger players that have came through our program and built this expectation up for us, and that's what we're going through. Yeah. Well, it's clicked great for him. Husky plays safety for us, and Glenn Miller's a safety. We moved Husky there because of Dante trade. I don't know how many snaps you have Husky down for, but I know for us, Husky is one of our leaders in interceptions. He's actually strengthened the secondary by us being able to move him. Personnel dictates that on defense because when they run the ball and play with big people, we try to match personnel to get bigger people in the game. He is a starter for us, so when we think of him, it's his lack of snaps didn't come from him not making plays because he obviously has been one of the top guys in terms of interceptions in the country. So I would say that he's also a first-time player in our system. It takes a little time.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
What's up, George?
Kind of a follow-up to Sam's question specifically about the offensive line. You know, your biggest successes here, the seemingly most sustained success comes when that unit is solidified and taken care of. You've got 3 different guys in that room in terms of coaching, and you've added voices in there to help. Is it too many voices in the room, or is it just these
Who said
guys?
I've added voices? Because you have staff don't mean you have voices. We have full-time coaches that are paid to do full-time jobs. We have assistants that are paid to be assistants. I'll cut that question out short. That there's the voice of how it works. The same recipe that is used at some other places that are winning games. and we kind of know how to organize the voices, so they're not hearing a lot of voices.
And you've talked a lot this season and in past about player-led culture in a time when it feels like for this season you're at a low point. Are you seeing those same guys who were leaders going into this season stepping up now and trying to rally the troops, so to speak?
No, I think the best thing about it is I haven't seen a difference. I think the chaos that's going on around our program is more external than internal, and it's just because of how we do things. We don't ride the wave and emotions a lot. I try to make sure our approach is really consistent, because one of the things I've learned raising kids, and I always go back to it, is consistency is the key for raising kids and creating habits. And so we don't jump around and, this week we're at an all-time low. No, we evaluate the terrain. We've got a map and we've got terrain. Well, the terrain says these are the decisions we got to make now. I kind of grew up watching Locksley manage the terrain. I've kind of been through some storms, and as a young sapling here, I've seen some storms through Maryland football over the years, whether as a fan, as a kid, scalping tickets, losing money because we didn't get enough people to come in, or whether it's leading the program when I get off the bus and saying, how can I get more people to come? And I love this challenge. I love this job. It's a great situation for me, and our team's excited. So we don't ride the wave.
Coach, the last two games, it seems like, just as an observer who's not an expert on football.
Come on, you're an expert, Bruce. You've been here a million.
I'm an observer. Dante Trader goes out, and from the moment he went out, it just seemed something was missing on the defense, and hopefully he's back. What does he bring to the defense? We know he's a leader. We know how cerebral he is. What does he bring? How much was he missed in those two games?
He's a quarterback of our defense, but Bruce, because you have been around here a long time, I don't really care about all that. Like, I don't care that Dante wasn't available, because my job is to make sure number 6, Brandon Jacobs, who had a chance to go anywhere in the country, is prepared to go in and play when he has to. And, we do that around here. Dante's an integral part of it because of the wisdom and experience he's gained from his time under the fire. I mean, they've all gone through this part of it, and there's no doubt having him back there helps us, makes us better, which is why it allowed us to move a Husky from corner to safety and Glenn to go down to a natural position of the star and strengthen us, contrary to Sam's question. But Dante is a valuable piece of it that's, his experience you just can't buy, and that's the part when I keep talking about wisdom and the importance of understanding, there's a gift in some of the things that have happened the last couple of weeks that, as I told you after the game, that they seem, you may not see the impact of them yet, but they're coming. We got a good team, and I still believe it, and they'll be coached up.
Coach,
you do good questions too. See, when I give one guy compliments, I gotta make sure I give everybody compliments.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that.
Sam has really got my man crush on Sam, and he's feeling good about himself.
Coach, but now 0-3 in Big Ten play, how do you continue to instill confidence in the team that you'll get to where you want to go to, and where, like you said, where is that you want to be?
By not looking at it collectively. We just got to measure the terrain. I'm going to keep going back to it. We know what the map was and where we want to go, but when the map and the terrain aren't matching, you better go with the terrain or you end up in somebody's river.
We got a Mike Boy question.
He wants me to tell him he has good questions too. Oh, man, Mike.
So you mentioned in the beginning, obviously this is homecoming. A guy who, so to speak, had a homecoming was Jalen Husky, Sam's guy. I'm just curious, being a guy who was highly touted out of the portal, at Bowling Green, was he kind of eager to come home and play in front of his family here, obviously not having that opportunity out of high school?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I think we've made our living on around here. These guys that somehow we evaluate that turn out to be really talented guys, and he was one of those late bloomers because I know he transferred into QO, played 2 years there. I don't think he lost a game when he was there, and he was kind of one of those guys right on the edge of an offer for us. Went to Bowling Green, developed into an all-conference player, and then, I mean, it was not easy to get him to come home because he had a lot of opportunities to go. I mean, I know sometimes we walk past that that middle of the garden where it's all that wisdom and we think about what we don't have and what we would want. But he was a tough get for us to stay home, and I think he saw the value of coming back here, and he continues to see it because he's benefited our program in a lot of ways, and we've also helped him, and that's what makes this program a little bit different. That's why we get some homeboy discounts on guys to come here, because we got a little different feel that I think kids understand that they're going to be developed not just to be great players, but good people as well. Thanks, guys.
Okay, we'll start in the bye week off today with practice. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday. Thursday we'll lift. Coaches will go on the road. Recruit Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Go to high school games Friday night, Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon. I think we have a bunch going too, and then a couple of them on Thursday night. And then we'll be back at it Sunday with our team. Sunday will be a traditional Tuesday. So we'll get going there. Game time was decided for noon Eastern, so we'll begin getting acclimated for that next Sunday. But we'll have 3 good days of practice, and then give our team 3 days off of practicing, and then get ready for Indiana.
Halfway through the season, are you where you wanted to be? How far away are you from where you want to be? How do you just generally assess where you are halfway through the season?
I want to be 7-0, number 1 in the country, but I don't know if we're ready to declare that one yet. I didn't know necessarily what our team was going to look like, this year, as we're trying to build it into the type of program we want to have sustained success. So I kind of knew that this year was going to have our ups and downs. There were so many new faces, new bodies, new people playing positions they've never played before, in atmospheres they've never played, in a conference we've never played in. There was going to be so much new that it would be impossible to suggest that it was going to look too different than it is right now. Good win, tough loss, good win, tough loss. We've had a few of those in a row now. So I think that's kind of part of what we're living through. And it looks like that's what college football is living through right now, with all the changes and the realignment, which is awesome. 4-3 in college is more like 4-3 in the NFL versus 4-3 in college used to be completely different a couple of years ago. So we're okay. We're in terms of where we want to be. No, I'd like us to always be better. I'd like us to always try to be playing a little bit higher level. But I do believe that if we continue to improve each week, we'll get there. And then we're going to have a new influx, a huge new influx of talent that will come in here starting in December.
Earlier this season, you mentioned that you scheme off of situation and not personnel. But when Jeremiah Hunter only gets 1 catch against Iowa and 3 catches against Michigan the week before, is there any intention to maybe get him a little bit more involved in the offense moving forward?
Yeah, well, we tried to hit him a couple times. We certainly tried to hit him on 4th and 11. We threw him the ball. We barely missed him. We hit him on we tried to throw him a go ball down in the red zone. We wound up taking a sack, and he did a great job on his route. We wound up just having a miscommunication there, but would have loved to hit a go ball at when it was 20-10, the first drive of the second half, when we drove down there on 1st and 10 on the plus 25-yard line. Yeah, we had him schemed up to throw a go-to. We had another chance that we tried to get him at the end of the half. We tried to hit him on a double move. Wound up looking toward Denzel, but probably had an opportunity to look at Jeremiah there. There was probably about 5 or 6 plays that he was the primary receiver in. Unfortunately, the ball didn't go to him. But the catches that Rashid had were all for that position, let's call it. And it just happened the way the game went, or who was in the game at the moment in time. Ended up 4 catches went to Rashid at the Z wide receiver, and 1 went to Jeremiah, but yet they were playing the same position, running the same routes.
Are there any guys that were questionable or out, and now you have 2 weeks to regroup? Are there any guys that won't come out of that and play?
Well, I guess Durfee will come out of it and play. Who won't come out of this and play? I don't know that. I would say Quentin Moore and Kevin Green are probably the least likely to be able to come out of this and play. I think it sounded like today that they said Kevin Green was going to be cleared for USC game. So I would assume that he will not come out of this, and then we'll see what this week brings for Quentin Moore. And then Max McCree was an injury during the game, and that one we're still waiting to hear from the hand specialist.
More, I think if he sits out 2 more games, he's eligible for a redshirt. Would that be a consideration?
It would be.
Is there a chance you think that you might not get him back this year?
Who, Quentin?
Quinn?
I think we'll have to see what it looks like. He's right now in that spot where, it was a pretty substantial MCL injury. And so we're working through it and trying to, he didn't have to get operated on, but we did have to, we have to let the doctors make the decision on what's best for him. And right now he's not where, I guess, where he hoped he would be, but he is progressing at a good level.
Coach, with the 9 a.m. kickoff analysis, was there anything from experiencing that first time that you'll tweak or do different, or just the logistics of a trip like that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, we started pretty strong, so I don't know what I would, we had 2 offensive drives, one 14-play, one 15-play offensive drive. We had a 3-and-out to start the game on special teams, on defense. It was 7-all with 7 minutes left in the second quarter. We definitely didn't play well in the second half. I don't know. I don't have a real answer. Did that have to do with, were they tired? Was it 9 a.m. kickoff? Did we get up to a level and then couldn't sustain it? I don't think so. We'll look at everything, though. We talked about it today to kind of put in any special requests that any staff members have regarding if there's something that we could do differently or better. But for the most part, I think we would continue to have our Thursday morning practice. We don't have much flexibility because it's not the NFL. You can't move their class schedule. So you can only do what you can do, which is they have to go to class Tuesday and Wednesday at their normal time. Thursday, we're going to be able to travel, so you can move their classes then. And then Friday will be in Indiana or Bloomington Thursday night and Friday night. But in regards to what we do there, I can't see much of a difference because I don't know how much option we have. Usually, if you're a West Coast team playing on the East Coast in the NFL, you're doing it back-to-back weeks, and you're staying for the week. You'll never be in a situation where you're flying twice and playing the early morning kickoff. And then very rarely, I can't think of a team that's ever played at 10 a.m. if they were a Pacific team and then play again at 10 a.m. their next game. I would be hard-pressed to say it's probably ever happened in the NFL. So for that to happen with us, we have to make it work. We will make it work, and we'll do the very best we can to put the best schedule together we can.
Coach, I got to imagine you're frustrated with the red zone offense. When you're taking a look at that and taking a deep dive into it, what are you seeing?
Yeah, well, this past game, I saw us drive down there to the 8-yard line, have a false start, and then 2nd and 13 on the 13 usually leads to a field goal. Not very excited that we got the field goal blocked. And then the next drive, we got down to the red zone, scored a touchdown. And then the end of the game, I think we had 2 other red zone possessions, one of which we kicked a field goal in and one of which we scored a touchdown on. So, I like to score touchdowns on all of them. I'd like to not be in 2nd and 13 on the 13. That's really tough. That's a big time challenge. And, we had some chances. I think we had on that 3rd down and 13, probably could have hit the running back on a check down. Looked like they kind of lost track of him after he chipped, but we had a little bit of a protection problem there and had to scramble out. But yeah, we're looking at everything. We're taking a huge dive into red zone offense, a dive into 3rd down offense, a dive into end of half defense, a dive into our kicking game. But you got 3 days, 4 days maybe to look at all of it. It's not the NFL. You don't, switch out players. And it's our job to get our players better and continue to improve. And then it's our job to coach better. And it's our job to get in situations where maybe we can not have a false start or not have an illegal shift or not have a certain penalty here or there or maybe hit on a pass. But Yeah, I mean, it is what it is right now, and I do believe as we're building this program and we're going through this process, these things happen in year one. They happen probably everywhere in year one, and we're right now trying to find a way to get better.
Do you think the field goal, the block field goal, was more a trajectory issue or a blocking issue up front?
Now they got us on. They had a really good push. They had a really good push, and they have 2 6'4" and 6'5" D tackles there. And, it looked like the ball might have been a little bit lower trajectory than maybe the other two were. But I think they had a really good push on our right guard and right tackle. And we need to do a better job of submarining there, and we didn't. And they executed the block better than we executed the protection.
You mentioned there's going to be a big influx of talent starting in December. Where are the places that you see where you most need to continue to add depth or maybe kind of reshape the way that the personnel is on the roster?
Well, I think we have a lot of guys that are out of eligibility. So, you're going to have a situation where our safeties are out of eligibility with Cam Fab and Cam Broussard. So we're going to have to look at our safety position. Our corners, Thad Dixon's out of eligibility. You're going to have Carson Bruner and Zoe both out of eligibility. You got Sebastian Valdez out of eligibility. Jacob Bandez out of eligibility. So when you have all, 7 guys, let's call it, on defense, then offensively, Giles Jackson and Jeremiah Hunter are out of eligibility. I believe everybody else, and Latu is out of eligibility. I believe everybody else isn't. I think that's right. So we're going to have to, find receivers. Are they on our roster? Are they going to have to come in? That's going to be up to the guys on our roster. They have a head start. And that's the beautiful thing. Everybody on this team has a head start. So if you're not out of eligibility, you have a huge head start on becoming the dude next year. And we're going to see some great things out of Kamari House and Peyton Waters. And we're going to see great things out of some of the younger players that are getting opportunities right now. Adam Muhammad. But on the same token, Demond, Audric had 22 snaps. But on the same token, we're always going to look to continue to bring great players in. The new world order of college football will allow us to be able to spend what other programs are spending. And when you have that opportunity, then it's going to be much more of a level playing field than what it is right now in college football. And, we all saw what the Ohio State-Oregon game looked like, and that was a battle of two $20 million rosters. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more battles of comparable compensated rosters, and that'll make it really cool to see what football looks like.
Talking about your younger guys, you have a cornerback in Caleb Presley who's been here a couple seasons and hasn't played yet, and I just wonder, what's his progress?
I think he's had good days of practice and then some days that weren't as good, and he's going to see that he's got a chance to – he's got Elijah Jackson, he's got Efe, he's got Thad, Jordan Shaw right now all in front of him. And he's doing a really good job, I think, of trying to compete with those guys, and as is Barkins. But it's going to be an everyday thing, and they're going to have to be consistent in continuing to improve. And that's the fun part about the bye week, that this is a great opportunity for our young players to go out there and see how much better they can get. And we're going to do a lot more emphasis of good on good with our young guys and see what those guys look like, and give the older veterans let Cam Fab get his body back, let Zoe, really get healthy, get Bruner really healthy. So this 5-game push that we're going to have to get ourselves to be able to play 6, we're going to try to get the healthiest group we got possibly out there.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about the offensive line? It just seemed like you lost Max early. Solo's been hurt. It seems like you've either got new guys or really young guys, which...
We had that to start the year. We had new guys and really young guys to start the year. And then all of a sudden they miraculously became veteran, and then we realized they're not veteran. So it's a challenge, right? Max was playing at an Iowa junior college while we were going to play Iowa, right? That's where Max came from. And then we lose Max the 8th play of the game, and then it's like this, oh my God, we lost Max, and then we put Swanee in, who's a freshman. Redshirt freshman. And then we put Khalid Tafai in because Swanee's struggling a little bit because Swanee's coming off of an injury. And Khalid is a redshirt freshman. And Hatchett is playing next to him with his experience as a redshirt freshman. And then you go out there, and on the right side, you've got Enoch and you've got D'Lo, right? Two guys that are older guys, but guys coming from other places. So you've got D'Lo and Enoch really bringing the stability of the seniority to the offensive line. And then you've got at right tackle Drew, who played half the season last year as a sophomore at San Diego State, and now he's doing a really good job for us. And Zach Henning's a redshirt freshman. He's going to get some more reps. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we are right now up front with the offensive line. We are a young group with a couple of older veteran players, and we are going to work through the best combination of 5 guys, and we're going to rotate a lot of guys in these next 3 days. Guard Memelar should be healthier than he was, so that's exciting to get him back. And I think we'll see Guard and Landon and D'Lo and Enoch all, and Zach Henning competing inside, and then Swanee, Kali, and Drew, and Pocky probably all competing outside.
You guys have seen a number of opponents this year who don't ask their quarterbacks to throw it a whole lot. That's changing here probably over these next 5 games.
Yeah.
Is that a challenge defensively when you've seen mostly kind of one style most of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely we've kind of had that run of like 4 games in a row where you've really dealt with running back, run game. And I mean, I think we're letting up 123 yards a game in the passing game on defense. Now we're playing Indiana, who throws, I think they're number 1 in the conference in passing. And then you have SC, who we know is going to throw the ball. And then I think Penn State with Drew Aller, they're throwing the ball. So it's really changing, and then obviously with Dylan up at Oregon. So, we're going to see a substantial difference in what we're defending. And it's going to be a great responsibility and great challenge to keep the defense continuing to play well. Offensively, we've got to find ways to score more than 24 points a game. Our goal is going to have to be, we're going to try to get to 30. And then we're going to see, because I think these next few weeks, the type of offenses we're going to play is we'll have more possessions because it won't be, as long of the ground and pounds. But, we had 80 plays in this past game against Iowa and just didn't have enough points.
What did this game teach you about playing in the Big Ten, whether it be the atmosphere, the travel, the physicality? What were some of your big takeaways from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything we thought it was going to be. This is the Big Ten. This is different. And the guys are big. And the players look the part. And they're born and raised to play in the Big Ten, and that's what the Big Ten used to be, right? The Wisconsin offensive lines, the Iowa offensive lines, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, that's what it's been about, the size of those type groups. With the travel, that's new. That's new to have it consistently. We always would have maybe one game across the country, but that's new for sure. And then I would also say the mentality of the Big Ten. There is a mindset of how you play football. There's a mindset of defense. There's a mindset of the running game. There's a mindset of the physicality of the game. The guys, Coach Ferentz has recruited to that team for 26 years, right? So he has built that team exactly how he wants it to look, to do exactly what he wants them to do at exactly the right moment. And that's how he feeds them, how they work out in the weight room, how they are the training room, their academic. They probably haven't changed their practice times in 25 years. Everything is what it is, right? So the Big Ten, the atmosphere is going to be great. I think our AD said to me, he said, I would bet that we'll play in front of a larger crowd this year than any other year that we've ever played, because you're playing a sellout at Penn State. You're playing a sellout at Iowa. You're playing a sellout at Indiana. You're playing a sellout. I mean, it's just you're constantly playing in front of the most amount of people, which makes it great. But it's a process to jump into this conference. It's not like we made a coaching change, but we were already in the conference. We have a new coach in a new conference with a new team, which is different, unique than some of the other places that have first-year head coaches that have been in either this conference or been in the SEC or been in the ACC.
Speaking of roster construction and things that are new, how does the 85 to 105 change your approach, maybe and specifically for the 25 recruiting class? Does that allow you to add more guys, or is it how is your approach going to be for?
Yeah, well, one of the things that goes into if you want to add more scholarships, that comes out of your revenue share. So the first $2.5 million would be taken out if we added more scholarships. So I think right now what we would like to do is we would like to stay at our 85, and we would like to max out the possible revenue we can get to our kids. I think 85 is a good number, and then be able to maintain the walk-on program and keep 20 players here that are walking on. I would hate to be a situation where you just get rid of all walk-ons that don't give guys opportunities, but we're also going to have to see what the competition does and the peer groups that we're going against. And we never want to be at a disadvantage. And the best part about all of my conversations with Pat and Aaron have been, we're not going to be at a disadvantage. That they are fully on board that the University of Washington is not going to be at a disadvantage, and we are going to understand the necessary things we have to do to stay at the top of the conference.
Does McCree have a chance to play with a club or something like that?
That's up to the hand surgeon, so we'll know better today, this afternoon, after he sees the hand surgeon. It's one of those dislocations that there has to be a specific hand surgeon that decides if he can play with a club, if he can't. There's the ball cast, which you really can't use as an offensive lineman. So there's some parts to it that is some intricacies that I don't know the answer to.
Surgery?
No surgery.
What's Ryan Otten's status, and is he going to be able to play at all this season?
I don't expect him to, no. Okay, thank you.
Good to see everybody, and just talk a little bit about this past Saturday, then we'll focus on this week's upcoming game, obviously. Again, just really happy, to get the win the other day, and happy for the way the team really responded to a tough week, tough outing the week before. And I think it's fair to say it was our most complete game thus far, and played some good complementary football in there. So happy about that. Like always on Sunday, a lot of things to clean up and a lot of things we can still get better at, which is, good to know, but also got to be working on that. So, we're 6 weeks into it right now and doing a lot of good things. Certainly some areas we can improve on. We'll try to focus on that as we turn the page and move forward. Captains this week will be the same four guys. Got Jay Higgins, obviously, and Quinn Schulte on the defensive side. And then you've got Luke Lachey and Cade McNamara offensively. Injury-wise, pretty much where we ended the game is kind of where we're at right now. Addison String is going to be out several weeks here. Bo will not be able to make it this week. Maybe it's not as bad as we thought earlier in the week, but, he definitely not play Saturday. He was out there today walking around, but got a ways to go. And then on the positive front, looks like Hayden Large will be able to play if he can make it through the week, which optimistic about that, but that's some good news at least. So, right now, biggest thing right now for us is our focus is on the challenge waiting us in East Lansing on Saturday night, playing Michigan State. And, typically you go up there, they've got a good team, a talented team, and that's certainly the case. A lot of good players, all three phases, and they're very well coached. I've got nothing but total respect for Coach Smith. Only got to meet him this past summer, but I guess May, spring. But, have known about his career and admired him from afar, both as a player. I've always got a little affinity for guys that walk on. He walked on at Oregon State and led them to, an awful lot of success as a player. And then, his coaching career has been very, very impressive. And some of the people that he's worked with, I have tremendous respect for, Mike Riley and Coach Peterson. So he's been around a lot of good people, and then has done a great job at Oregon State when he went back there. And now I think you're looking at the same thing at Michigan State. A lot of the guys that worked with him last year are with him now. And then defensively, a little bit different, a little bit like last week, where you've got predominantly the offensive staff from the previous school with the head coach, and then defensively, Joe Rossi's taken over the defense, and we certainly are familiar with him. Did great work up at Minnesota. So got a really good coaching staff and again, a lot of good players. The quarterback, and, if you look at the roster, the same thing. Significant amount of transfers. I wouldn't say as many, but significant amount of transfers, and they're all impactful as you look at it. Start with the quarterback. Dual threat guy, can run the ball, can throw the ball effectively, and he's a very dangerous player. They had a good running back last year that felt like about 200 yards on us, but 100-plus yards on us, and they've got another guy to go with him. Another transfer joined in there, so they've got a couple really good running backs, a couple good receivers. Tight end, he's been very active in the passing game, came from Oregon State as well, and the center up front joined him as well. So got a really good group of players there, and then defensively, good up front. Linebackers are very, very active. One from last year, one transfer from Wisconsin, and then the back end, they're good as well. And there's number 43, one of their safeties, is extremely talented back there. So good group. And then maybe the two best specialists in the conference, excellent punter, excellent kicker. And unfortunately, the kicker had a 58-yarder against us last year. So they're a good football team. And last thing I'll just say about it, it's really kind of tough to judge them. You look at their record right now, and there's a lot of teams that are 4-2, 3-3, 2-4 in the Big Ten, and you consider they've played arguably two of the best teams, if not the best teams, not only in the conference but in the country, their last two times out. So, it's going to be a big challenge for us. We're well aware of that. Just a couple words about the kid captain. Hudson Ferris is a 12-year-old from Eldridge, Iowa. He'll be the guy that's a kid captain this week. And as I understand it, Hudson was just a normal Iowa kid, 9-year-old kid, and started experiencing some pain. And the doctors, unfortunately, discovered a very big tumor back on his spine. And so anyway, it's the name of the disease is neuroblastoma, which, I'm certainly not a doctor, but that's, it was stage 4 neuroblastoma. And he's undergone some real extensive treatments over the last 18 months. 2 rounds of chemotherapy, 2 stem cell transplants, and then radiation followed that. This is going back a ways. So anyway, next month he'll celebrate his 2nd year of being cancer-free. So really happy to be able to represent him this weekend, and want to congratulate Hudson on that. Then last thing, just before I open it up, Scott asked a question the other day about, lessons learned from players. And that's a pretty reflective question. I'm not so sure I was in a reflective mood the other day, but it is funny. It kind of stuck with me a little bit, and thinking about it later that afternoon. One thing, first of all, if you're open to it, I think your players teach you all the time. And the one email I'd reference that I got last year, you get things, come in from former players all the time. And Will Lack was a guy who's one of my favorite all-time players here. Never started a game, was a walk-on back on that 02 team. Just a great young guy. And he's the only guy, to my knowledge, that we've had go to Harvard Medical School. And he's actually, ironically, on the faculty at Washington now, out in Seattle. And but he sent an email last year. It was 6 words, which I thought were pretty good. Kind of just summed up his feeling about playing in the program, things he learned. And it was the 6 words are basically show up, work hard, and never quit. And I think that's kind of what the game teaches you. And Will coincidentally just referenced those things again yesterday. He sent me a nice text message. So just throw that one in there, and I'll open it up for questions.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Kirk, just talking about Brendan Sullivan for a little bit. He's a guy that comes in. He's got this, I guess, what is it? It's a special role with this team. He comes in and just seems like he has a really positive attitude about the whole situation. He brings energy when he comes into the game, and you guys end up scoring points when he is in that red zone package. I mean, how unique is it for a guy to really kind of embrace a unique role like that and have such a positive attitude?
Yeah, he's been great, and we didn't, as you know, we didn't do a lot in the transfer portal this past year, mainly because had so many guys come back that were on the team already. So, but we're so glad to get he and Jacob both, join us on the offensive side, and both of them are great young guys. Brandon's got a great attitude, really good work ethic, and they jumped in June and really kind of ascended. You know, they really stood out in terms of the way they work, their competitiveness, and so he's done a good job on the field too. More importantly, as we transitioned into August, he's had a lot to learn, like all of us have with the new offense, but he's done a really good job with that. And he's got some attributes that maybe Cade doesn't have, which we thought would be potentially impactful and helpful for us. So happy about what he's doing so far. We'll see if his role can grow and increase, but doing a really good job.
Mitch Fick, KJN, wanted to go back to Saturday. Drew and his team shared the post-game video from the locker room, and Jay giving you the game ball for win number 200, and he said he's 5 away from Woody Hayes. And I'm guessing you're not telling them where you are in the pantheon of Big Ten wins, but what does it mean to you that this team knows where you are and the history that's on the table? And
I mean, not to be I'm going to say smart ass, but I'll say smart aleck. But I mean, you can't help it, though. I mean, all this stuff is out there, I guess, all the time. So, it'd be great to get all these things done just to get them done. But I just, as I said the other day, I feel fortunate to be at a good place. It takes a lot of, you just have to have a lot of things fall in place, to have something like this happen. And a couple of thoughts. I mean, first of all, I never got into it for that. I got into it because I like being around young people, and I still want to retire as a line coach. Like, that's my real secret dream, because that's what I enjoy as much as anything, just coaching guys in a smaller room. But, I've learned to love this job, too. It's a different job, and there's some things about it that are really neat and cool. But you've got to be in the right place, and you got to be with the right people. As I said the other day, that's one constant. And if Coach Hayes were still alive, I'm sure he'd say the same thing. It's just, you got to be around good people. And so I feel very fortunate in that regard. And, we'll see. And, the little caveat, I mean, after year one or when we were 2-18, because the body count was out there weekly, nobody would have envisioned that. So kind of go back to Will's point about you just never quit.
Hey, Kirk. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I wanted to ask a couple questions about Dayton Howard. I know you guys were his only offer across the board, no D2, no D3. So I guess what made you decide to pull the trigger when other schools wouldn't? And secondarily, I know you said he's a pretty solid prospect. I guess what has given you that level of encouragement and maybe looking towards the future for him?
Yeah, first of all, I didn't know nobody offered him. I mean, maybe I'd reconsider on that, but it's like most of our players when they come in, it's really, this is very different and very new to them. And it's just the way it is. I mean, it's a big step, and if our guys go to the NFL, they experience the same thing. Things happen a lot faster and just, keeps coming at you. So, but he came in and did a good job last year. Nothing to distinguish himself, good or bad, but did a good job, very solid. As I stand here right now, the one flashback, that last practice we had out there in the spring, I mean, you have little things that you remember about players. He made a couple plays, I think, but one in particular over on our bench sideline that it was like, maybe he's getting it, that type of thing. It was just one of those aha moments, if you will. And then he's had ups and downs since then because he's young. He's going into his second year. He's not developed physically yet like he will be. But we've seen good attitude, and we've seen a guy who just shows up and works hard. So it's good for him to have some experience on the field. That's again, you can't hand that to anybody. They've got to experience it and go out and do it. So good for him to be involved in a play like that. Good learning experience at the end of that play, because he can't do that either. And but that's part of the road. But we're encouraged because he's got a good attitude and he's got some good ability. So why other people didn't recruit him, I'm not sure, but we're glad that we did.
Adam Jacoby, Hawkeye Beacon. You as an offensive line guy were probably pretty impressed by how the line played against Washington. I know PFF graded them as the highest offensive line for the week, and I know coaches don't really love PFF.
I'm not laughing at you. Okay, I'm standing here thinking about how glad I am when my 6 years in the NFL there was no PFF, because nobody, as far as I know, no experts were evaluating my work every week except for my boss. So anyway.
But they graded out especially well in pass protection. Do you think that was their best week of pass pro this season?
Yeah, I think it was our team's best day out collectively, and yeah, I think it was we're improving up front, and we're all cautiously optimistic again because we're more veteran, we're a little bit more developed than we've been. We've gone through a couple tough years, and up front, and for nobody's fault, but it's just how it's going. So I think we're closer to being where we want to be, and it's fun to watch the guys' confidence starting to grow a little bit, and they deserve it. I mean, they did a good job Saturday. They really did. We had a lot of respect for the defense we were up against for obvious reasons, and thought our guys met the challenge and pushed. And this is going to be a different type of challenge, but another challenge nonetheless with a lot of good defensive teams in this conference. Yep.
Jedd Leistikow, Des Moines Register. On the outside, I see some similarities to the 2008 team. You had a little bit of quarterback iffiness early in the season. Great running back performance. A 1-point non-conference loss. You'd like to have back probably. And a trip to East Lansing to boot. Do you see any?
It didn't go so well.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Anyway,
do you see any similarities? I guess how this team is wired, not necessarily those things, but just sort of like, because that 08 team certainly is one of your better stories.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's one of my favorite teams to have worked with. It really was, and you know it's kind of like what I said to Caleb the other day about, like, you know, you're off to a great start, and at this point, that's pretty doggone good what he's done. But Sean Green did it for 12 games plus one, and so that's the race we run. I'll remind guys. I mean, it's we were sitting pretty good in 12 at the six, the same record actually, and after 6 games, next 6 didn't go so well, and I can say the same thing about 06. I think we were 1-5 down the stretch. So, it's week to week, and this is a week to week league. That's part of the challenge of playing in a conference like this. Is how can you meet the challenge each and every week? It's different as they are, but so far, yeah. I mean, the attitudes have been really good, and now the question is, can we maintain it for a couple more months here, knowing that it's going to be, we're going to hit some walls here. So how are we going to push through that and keep going?
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, I think Aiden Childs was voted a captain before his first game as a true freshman. I don't really know how many players around the country are doing that. But he's a guy with a lot of different attributes, but something that strikes me is when a play is broken, he'll do everything to kind of make a play downfield. How important is it for your defense to stay in their keys and stay aligned, knowing that there could be opportunities at hand?
You just said it. I mean, it's exactly what you have to do. You have to stick with your position and stick with your responsibilities. And if you're in the back end especially, you can't be coming out of coverage because the guy looks like he's pulling it down, because, he can do both, certainly. And, to be voted captain as a newcomer, that's pretty impressive. It tells you a lot about the way he carries himself. And just talked about Brennan being here for a couple of months, and everybody respected him to the highest level. So it looks like the same thing there. But that's what you hope for with a quarterback also, is a guy who's got that, not only a good player, but the right demeanor and leadership capabilities. We got to watch him when we were preparing for Ohio State. That's the first time we saw him, and he's a really dangerous player. He can hurt you a couple different ways.
Ethan Peter, Quad City Times. I wanted to ask you about the 2012 team. That was the last team that beat the Spartans in East Lansing. That when that team won, it ran the ball really well, not unlike this team. What do you think that says about kind of the eternal principles of winning in the Big Ten? And to talk about another walk-on, Mark Weissman was at the end of a really hot 4-game run that year. What did he bring to the program in his 3 years with it? Yeah, Mark was a great player for us, and he's a tremendous young man. So did a great job. Yeah, he was big in that game too. And to your point about running the ball, if you can run the ball in this conference, especially, the wind was kicking up, was it 2 days ago? A reminder on Sunday that, we got that coming down the road here today. A little nippy out there at practice. So, we're getting ready to head into that time of year where that helps if you can, at least run the ball semi-successfully. So, and if you got to throw it. I mean, you got to be able to throw it too, but you have to learn how to handle the elements. And I think it rained that day too up there, if I remember. It was a rainy day, but anyway, it's going to take everything. And that was a good memory certainly that year.
John Steffi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Got a couple questions in case the mic doesn't get back to me. First of all, with Logan Jones, he's talking earlier about, coaches sticking with him even when things, as he said, were ugly 2 years ago. What did you see kind of from him, and what's it like to now get to see him reap the rewards of that?
And with all due respect to Logan, I don't know what the heck he's talking about. Like, it never looked too ugly to me. He is, he's just like, he's the kind of guy we want on our football team. He's just everything about him. Everything he does is just with purpose. He's really wired in when he's working. He's very popular with his teammates, and He's just so invested, comes from a great family, mom, sister, really good people. But, yeah, I mean, it may not have been going perfectly for him, all that kind of stuff, but he's such a good prospect. And just 2 years ago now, he's a really good football player. Just because he's got every attribute you hope for. He's a hard worker, very selfless, and moved over to, the offensive side. And, again, I don't know if I've said it publicly, but I screwed that one up. We should have done that in December. I should have approached him then instead of waiting until spring ball. So that slowed his progress down, too. We could have done him a favor by getting him quicker, get over there quicker. He can blame that on me. But, I'm just so glad he's on our team, and he's playing really well. He's just no big surprise. I mean, we were certainly counting on that.
And then with third down, that's been kind of one of the really big improvements this year. Kind of what do you attribute kind of the greater ability to move the chains there?
If you can manage the situations a little bit, that certainly helps. And then, to the point earlier, we are protecting, I think, a little bit better. Probably getting the ball a little quicker. And, all those things help out. And then somebody's got to get open if you're going to get it out. So, but that's something we're going to have to keep working on. And I'm getting ready to walk into a meeting, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in about a half hour. Just because these guys have some looks that, present some challenges, and they have some guys that can get back there pretty quick. So we're going to have to try to figure something out.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. I'm curious about the kind of genesis of the red zone package. Was it Tim that came to you first and kind of pitched that? And what was your initial thoughts when that first became a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Tim is a coordinator, and he's running it. I mean, that's his deal. And pretty much everything we're doing, I mean, is stuff that he brought. I mean, plays are plays. I mean, everybody understands that. There aren't a lot of new plays in football, but the way he calls them, the way he names them, all that stuff, we've all learned. So we've taken what he's got as his playbook and going with that. Yeah, and then, beyond the next step beyond that, but it's every step of the way going back to I guess February we really started meeting as a group. We being coaches, not the players. Everything's been collaborative. Tim, that's one of the things I'm really impressed with him. He's a really good communicator, very collaborative with everybody. He pulls. He wants ideas from people, not just has anybody got an idea, but he's trying to actively get that, which I think is a really good thing. And so every time we walk out of the room, I think there's a pretty good consensus. Hey, this is the best thing for us to be doing right now. And that's important when you go present to the players. But it's been that way every step of the way. And then, we bounce ideas around in there. And I say we. I'm probably like in the back of the room, more so than anybody. But, yeah, we talk about things. And you're always looking for ways that might be able to threaten the defense a little bit more. And Brendan does some things that maybe at least will give them some things to think about. And, hopefully we can just, keep expanding on that a little bit.
Owen Sebring with KGN. We've got a couple I'm going to try to squeeze in here. First, I just want to hear about the kind of Michigan pipeline. I think you've got 6 guys on your team that are Michigan natives, all kind of, some that grew up as close as an hour to East Lansing. Yep. Just what's made that pipeline so successful. I think Cohen talked about Desmond King being somebody that he first saw go from Detroit to Iowa and succeed here. The other part I was going to ask about was just when Phil Parker was playing at Michigan State, you were the O-line coach here. Yeah. And 2 of his games against Iowa had an interception and had a punt block for a touchdown, I believe. I know you have a pretty famously long memory for football games, so just want to know if you remember kind of game planning for Phil Parker.
The play he remembers the most is not being in there when we were in the bootleg, because he claims he told Coach Perlis it's coming, all that stuff. He's on the sideline. I've got tremendous respect for Coach Perlis. He was what a great defensive, coach and staff they were. But that's pretty stupid not having Phil in on the goal line defense. I don't know why you wouldn't do that in retrospect. What's that, 40 years ago, 30 years ago? But anyway, I remember all those games. And the thing I remember about Phil mostly, and don't ask me why it's funny. I mean, we ended up working together for a quarter century. I just remember watching him and thinking that, if he's got to be like a cousin to the Stoopses. Because to me, the way he played was very similar to the 3 Stoopses. And obviously, Mark hadn't played at that point, but all 3 of those guys were just smart as could be and tough and really, really good players. And you can just tell, watch them play. I got to be on the field of the Stoopses, knew how they were mentally and how they communicate with everybody, and I figured Phil was the same way. He's a 3-time All-Big Ten player. That's really hard to do. And he wasn't the fastest guy. He was certainly not a combine guy. And he still says Nick tried to run him out of there and all that stuff as a player. But, Phil doesn't go away. He's one of those guys. So, yeah, what a great career he had. And then, as far as the players from up there, Hayden Large, I've talked about that one. I'm still not sure how he got here. I'm just really glad. I guess him and Van Kiekrechts were buddies a little bit, the families. So that's kind of what let it open the door at least. But, we got if you want to call it a pipeline, but I think, historically, back in the 80s, we used to get guys from Jersey, and the common denominator, I think, was once guys come out here from an area, and if they have success and really like it, then they recruit the guys that come afterwards. And I think that's what we've seen in Detroit. We've been really lucky. The other thing I would say, I think Phil's been the guy who's done most of the work there. He sees things a little bit differently. And I remember with Desmond, I was in seeing another guy on a recruiting visit, and the guy ended up not visiting us. We went there, made a last-ditch effort. I think it was a Friday morning. I flew out of there, and then he dropped me off at the airport, and he said, I'm going to go see this other kid. It was Desmond. And so I never even saw him. Next thing you know, he's on campus, and we offered him and all that stuff, and then the rest is history. But my point there is Phil is willing to see things in players maybe other people don't see. He's not a guy who copycat recruits, where, so-and-so offers, so we're going to throw one in there. He just doesn't do that. He makes his own evaluations, and he's been right on an awful lot of them. You think about Desmond. Just got a nice text from Micah Hyde, another guy that was, going to the MAC, and, what a career he's had. So, Phil's got a rare ability that way, I think, to see things that are pretty good. Yep.
Hey, Kirk. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Wanted to ask about that new 4-1-6 package that you ran with Zach Lutmer as effectively the will linebacker, how that came together. And then I know Phil talked to us, I think, last spring about Zach starting to stick out.
Right.
I guess how has he stuck out in practice and earned that trust to get on the field?
Yeah, it's kind of the same as Brennan's package. You kick ideas around, everybody's thinking about things, and you got a guy who's done some good things. Zach's really done well. Defensively, he's done a good job on special teams. And you get in some situations where, maybe plug this player in and he can be helpful for us. So, it comes down to what's the job responsibility going to be, and then can he fit that? Can he, play that role? If they've got 3 tight ends in the game, we're probably not going to have them out there, that type of deal, or else somebody's going to be out, somebody else. But, I think it's just a good way to be open-minded, be creative, and use guys that seem to be ascending, and Zach's certainly doing that.
Hey, Kirk, Matt McGowan with Daily Island. You talked a lot about maturity in the offensive line, but what does that maturity look like when it's out in the field?
It's something you feel, I guess more than anything else. Our guys look more like the kind of line we want to be right now physically, and you can't hand that to a guy either. Like some guys walk in here, but not here. We don't get many guys that walk in that look like that, but when they finish, hopefully they climb that ladder. That's a lesson I learned watching our wrestlers, the way they operated back in the 80s. And they still do, but I mean, back in the 80s, that was, where'd this guy come from? How come they didn't recruit this 3-time state champion and they took this guy instead? But it's just part of it's a feel too, where guys' maturity, I think, brings confidence sometimes. But again, you gotta go through some bad experiences to get there. That's usually how the path works. Very few guys just walk in and, I worked with John. I'm not going to say I coached Jonathan Ogden. I've worked with him for 3 years. He didn't have many bad experiences when I was around because he was so good. But most guys go through some growing pains.
Last question, Tyler. Kirk, Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Just curious, between how Drew Stevens ended last season to now, I mean, what's the biggest areas of growth you've kind of seen during that process?
Yeah, and as you well know, he had done pretty well, but last season it was a crash landing. Just talking about some of those bad experiences, same thing. And it wasn't bad. It was really bad. It just, where you have to wonder, is this guy okay? You hear about it more in baseball, right, where a guy can't throw from second base to first after playing Major League Baseball for 9 years. It wasn't quite that bad, but, I was concerned. I was just kind of wondering, where's he at, and is he going to be able to come out of this? And he's done that tenfold. He just, back in January when he got back here, just went to work. It's that second, third year thing. Again, I'm talking in generalities, but that seems where guys, in general terms, start to get traction. Yeah, he's just so much more confident now. I think he better knows how to approach things day to day, week to week. And yeah, he's playing with a lot of confidence, and he's had good ability. That's not an issue. Although he is a lot more mature and stronger than he was certainly when he showed up here. You know, he used to joke about what he looked like when he first got here that first spring. I mean, he looked like a 14-year-old, you know. So he's really done a good job, and it's a credit to his hard work. It really is. Okay, thank you, guys.
Well, good morning. Oh, no.
Morning somewhere.
Yep, this is good afternoon. But game was what I saw on Saturday, you know. Just discipline. You know, there's certain situations that we got to be better at. Offense scored 10 points in the first half. Came back in the second, scored 7. So we got outscored 21-7 in the second half. Defense played a pretty good game, but you know, there's still just a little bit of discipline things, details, and guys just got to sacrifice certain stuff for them to, for the team to obtain the goals that we're trying to get to. So I think once we get that, and you have to earn the right to win, you know. I think they had a really good week of practice last week, but it still wasn't enough. So I'm excited to see how they approach tonight, and that'll give me a good feeling on how we're going to do the rest of the week.
And when it comes to discipline, is there anything you can do in practice to simulate anything to get them prepared for that, or is that one of those things that you just have to be able to do in a game?
I mean, you try to do the discipline just in different situations, like guys tucking their shirts in, being in the meetings at a certain time, just stuff that makes you know that they're bought in, you know, but a lot of stuff is happening to us towards the end of the game, so when fatigue kicks in a little bit, they're not exactly executing the way that they need to. But it's all fixable, you know, and we got the penalties down to 5, Penn State, so I was kind of excited about that. And then we jumped back up to 10, so, you know, we're going to stay at it. And these guys want to be coached, and they want that tough love. And, you know, we're going to just continue to preach to them the right stuff, and hopefully it just resonates.
You keep mentioning discipline. How much of that is on the coaches?
It is. It's all of it's on the coaches. All of it's on me. So it wouldn't be one of my pillars if I didn't think it was really important. So I just have to continue to reiterate it to the team and have them truly understand what it means. You know, it's not just a word. You know, it's more of actions. So we have to fix our actions out there on the field and stop getting in our own way.
I know hindsight can be, you know, kind of coulda, woulda, shoulda, but when you think back to 4th and 1, they had no timeouts. You only needed a yard to, you know, basically ice the game. Was it just the field position that kind of dictated things on that?
Yeah, the field position really dictated the things. Like you said, they didn't have any timeouts, but were we on the 20?
12,
yeah, it was even on the 12.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think you just started on the 3.
Exactly. I was about to put it on like the 20. But the fact that it was on the 12, it was just field position. If we would have had just a little bit more space, then I would have trusted us to go out there and just get the first down. But the way that we were running the ball and just the situations that had happened in that game before coming up to that weren't necessarily ideal. So that situation really didn't play into that.
What about into the first half? You stopped down, I think it was like 1:44, didn't call a timeout, and then you needed that time at the end of the half. You had to kick a field goal. What was the thinking there?
That we had enough time still, you know. It's easy to go back and say, if we do this at this time and this at that time, but at the exact time at that moment, I thought that the situation, we were good. But, you know, we did run out of time and have to kick a field goal. But there's nothing saying that there was more time that we would have scored. So I'm not going to play into that game. You got to just make a decision and go with that.
How about Tabaki as the 6th offensive lineman? How did you like that? Will you keep doing that some?
That's more game plan stuff, so I don't want to necessarily touch it. But he came in and played a good game.
What does that say about the offensive line? You know, they've gone through a few changes this year about their just intelligence, willingness to move different spots.
You know, Coach Castillo does a good job of multi-training guys so they can play multiple positions and not just the position that they play. So the fact that he could come in and help us at the tight end spot and block and know what motions he needed to go in and shift and everything. That was pretty good. So I was excited for him to get out there and play.
I wanted to ask you a question about the process of the injury, the status reports. How does that work? Do you assess it at the end of the week and submit it to the Big Ten?
Yes. So we do go over that, and then I give it to my guy that sends it to the Big Ten, and then it goes from there.
There were two targeting calls. One of them got overturned, obviously, but is that like a discipline toughness balance? Like, what is kind of the balance you're trying to strike there?
The targeting, the one with Quasi, that was close, He got one earlier in the year that was targeting, but this last game, it was more shoulder to me, so it's kind of just up to the referees to call if you want to or not, To be honest with you, most tackles or most people running the ball or whatnot, ball carriers, you can almost call targeting on every situation if you really wanted to. Because that one, they said that he led with the crown of his helmet. So anytime a defender comes at you, if you're a running back or whatnot, you're going to put your head down. And that's going to exactly mean targeting on how it is. So it's kind of up to the nature of the ref on what he wants to do.
And then on Minnesota's go-ahead touchdown, I think you were racing down the sideline, called timeout. Was there something you just didn't like in what you guys were lined up in, or did you see something in Minnesota's formation?
No, it was something we weren't in the right position, so we had to call timeout in that situation.
I don't know if you can comment on this, but that one penalty, pulling the player off of the pile, what did you see from that?
It was just that they warned us of that already, so they don't want one team pulling the other team off of each other. And we got called on that twice, and then we got to delay a game. So, those are discipline things. That's a discipline issue. That's something that's somebody that's making a choice to do something that's already been told not to do it. So that's a discipline thing. Stuff that the referees are calling, that's the ref. That's not necessarily a discipline issue. Maybe if it was people jumping off sides or false starts like we were doing before, which were discipline things, but we had kind of corrected that. So that was just unfortunate that the time that it came and just what happened, the outcome in it.
Rutgers seems to have a pretty decent run game, and you guys are proving to have continuing to have a good run defense. How do you see that matchup playing out?
It's going to match up pretty well. That running back's really good. He actually played with Berger. They went to the same high school, so I actually saw him play in high school. He's a good back, runs hard. You got to wrap him up. He's not just going to go down if you hit him. So he's a back that we're going to have to wrap up, and I'm confident in my defense, and I know they're excited for the challenge.
Halfway through the season, what's your confidence level that the offense can kind of realize the untapped potential that you have there?
I think that they're just seeing it in spurts. So if we can find a way to truly put a 4-quarter game together, then you can really see the potential. But the offense is still trying to operate a high-powered offense, and I have confidence in that. I think the players do too, especially when they are making plays in certain situations. It's just not enough plays, and it's just not consistent enough. So it's still new to these guys. It's still a new offense. But I'm not going to make any excuses. We should be able to run the ball a little bit better, and we should be able to protect a little bit better also.
What was your assessment of Ethan in his first game back? I know one of the interceptions was tipped, and the other one was a Hail Mary, so kind of maybe take us off the board a little bit. What do you think about his play?
And the other one, what happened to the other one?
The other one was hit the ground.
There you go. There you go. So he said it, I didn't. Yeah, it was just 3 unfortunate plays. One was tipped, and it still goes on his stats. But I think he did a good job of responding, moving in the pocket, coming back and just being a true leader. Guys still rallied behind him, and it was just unfortunate. The game to me really just came down to turnovers and penalties. So that's how we lost this game. It was mostly turnovers and penalties, and we just got to do a better job of protecting the football.
Not trying to get you in trouble, but when they replay a play and it looks like it hits the ground and everybody can see it and it stands, I mean, what's the value of replay then, right?
Exactly. It's very unfortunate, but there was there's about 60 other plays that we could have made out there and that we should have made. So I'm not going to just put everything on that one play, but, you know, it wasn't exactly ideal for us in that situation.